Radiohead. Catman started listening to Radiohead about a decade or so ago. Most people in this whole music scene, they come to a point where they disavow Radiohead as being an entry-level band for plebs. Catman is here to tell you, all you men are posers and you're gay. Catman always had a very authentic relationship with Radiohead. When he was an angsty teenager, he would put them on all the time. You man are out here listening to Radiohead for Reddit points, and then you start chatting like Radiohead were never that good. You're a bunch of fucking posers. Well, that out of the way, what's the deal with Thom Yorke? These days a staunch Zionist. It wasn't always this way. He used to make Coldplay music. He used to make Coldplay music. The Pablo Honey and Benz era of Radiohead was quite cheesy if you ask me, but the Benz had bangers. My Iron Lung, fucking yes. Just, that's a fucking sick song. Fucking Street Spirit, that's good and all. Then they went on to make the masterpiece, OK Computer. This is where Radiohead got serious and started putting out schizo bangers like Paranoid Android, Karma Police, Climbing Up the Walls. I would say it's their best album. Brave pick, I know, but it's just true, innit? But then after this, they did something huge. They made the biggest left turn in music history. Kid A, the most experimental album of all time. Memes aside, Radiohead take things in a more wacky direction with this one. And it ain't particularly like they're knocking down any conventions or anything, but things get much more abstract and lots is left up to interpretation. There was elements of this on OK Computer, but this album delves into electronic experiments. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying all this. I'm sure everyone who would see this video has heard this album before, but I've got to give some sort of context and an intro, don't I? What impact did Kid A have? Well, it transitioned Radiohead from making mopey music to making morbid music. They're not just sad now, they're mentally fucked. And you know, OK Computer was kind of like that too. But here it's like they're drugged to fuck on, I don't know, Benadryl or some shit. Seeing the fucking walrus. And on this album they lose themselves. But not in a cool way like Eminem. Nah, these men are having existential crises. Their perceptions of themselves are on some Picasso portrait shit. Everything in its right place is definitely quite the surreal start for the band. And in the context of their whole discography, it can be seen as a severing from what they were doing before. The song is massively repetitive in a way that works in its favour. It's like a monomaniacal need for order, though it can also be seen as harping sarcastically on a dystopian state of things. The way the vocals and effects begin to cascade later is great, and it really shines light on the mental disorder and derangement present in the mind of Ginger Tom. Yesterday, he woke up sucking a lemon, and he's fine with this. It's the way of things he's grown to put up with. This is just the natural way of society. There are two colours in my head. Everything is decided neatly into two camps, or teams. He doesn't know what it is they've tried to say because someone has tried to tell him something that doesn't fall into his unnuanced, sides-cooked tunnel view. Or maybe anyway. I hear the lyrics on this song were plucked out of a hat for surreal effect. Don't know how true that is though, just something I heard. The title track Kid A is a very gentle song where Thom Yorke plays the Pied Piper, enlightening those with open hearts and waking them up to how the government is corrupt and evil. With this song, Thom Yorke sets himself up as a saviour of society. But when I met him in Tesco's and said I didn't want to be rude, he said, "Oh, like you're doing right now?" And whenever I tried to say something, he would cut me off like, huh? It's a pretty good song, but for me, it always got lost standing next to all the memorable moments on this album. National Anthem's groove has always been badass and awesome. Really way too badass of a bass line for a Radiohead song. I don't know how they got away with it. Always loved how the groove remains the same while the music is all whirring and spiraling and going fucking mental. What is this song actually about though? You know, I don't think I've ever thought about it. But I guess the best I can come up with is that as matters in the world progress and things look scarier and things get worse for the average person, all we can do is hold out, at least with the mentality the album is stuck in. There's no revolution, just holding on and hoping for better. With this song, Radiohead discovered jazz. The freak out at the end is pretty good. As quite the jazz man myself, there's very distinct feelings and cries in those saxophones, speaking of deep anxieties and concerns. With the acknowledgement there's no they can really do about it, them being saxophones and all. That's how I feel about it anyway. How to disappear completely. Yo, I'ma be real. This song remains one of their best. It's beautiful and the lyrics lend such a ghostly feeling to the track, given that Thom Yorke takes on the form of some sort of spectre in this song, all being a metaphor for dissociation and a deep desire to escape. This song has the power to make you tear up a little, to wrench at your heart, and the part where Thom raises his voice really makes me empathise with him. It speaks strongly of how crippling this ailment is for him. Anxiety is a motherfucker. This song shares similarities in theme with no surprises, only here it just feels like he's isolated way more to get to this stage, and so it's more tragic to me. On No Surprises, he was begging and pleading for everything to just be okay, but here he has resorted to tricking himself to cope with reality. I'm not here. This isn't happening. This song is just very good at convincing me how troubled he is about all of this. I think it's a very emotional song. Tree Fingers is another one that tends to get lost within the rest of the album for me, but really again it is quite good. It's funny that this one track puts a lot of ambient bands in a similar vein to this to shame. I mean really, they got mugged by the Lazy-Eyed Ginger. The song is very refreshing and instills a clear mind. I suppose it also does help that we carry the context of the rest of the album, and especially How to Disappear Completely, into this track, which makes it easier to carve out meaning and depth from it, even in a sense of just abstract feeling. Optimistic is a classic that I often forget about, but whenever I listen to it, it's really fucking good. Really the only straight up rock song on this album. It puts a smile on my face with its very on the nose dystopian themes. The song really does feel like gaining a small power in yourself though. I feel this song is structured in such a way where there's all of these crushing factors, and Thom is saying, I'm not gonna give in, I'm gonna keep trying. Progress. There is a feeling of determination here, which is I suppose quite special for a Radiohead song. I suppose they figured they couldn't just plunge an album of pure hopelessness onto their fans. I respect that. They've painted this picture of society being troubling, of minds being tormented within it, and now with this song they're like, here's some ammunition. Those of you who will stand, stand. Within Thom Yorke there has always been a desire to rebel. That's why he jumped in that pool. In Limbo is very muddle-headed, quite the opposite of optimistic, where Thom speaks of spiraling trapdoors and losing his way at sea. This much feels like a negative answer to the previous song. You're living in a fantasy world. Here, Thom has become complacent again, as his burst of inspiration has been all used up. The moment has passed, and he has fallen back into old ways which do him no favours. This is being in limbo. He is in a place where he does nothing and feels no pleasure, but it's not hell either. He's just stagnant and stuck. Idiotech is a belter. Icy-ass beats to get down to while Thom rattles on about all of his worries and his trauma. He remarks upon our age of instant gratification and its consequences on the world. Global warming. It's an attitude of getting ahead, whether it be in life by making money or our species as a whole developing through technology, with a hubristic dismissal of the damages you are causing elsewhere and how our ape minds weren't meant to contend with the fast-paced nature of all of this. But I mean, Ice Age isn't here yet, so I think maybe Thom was wrong about this one. Thom does not realise that we will evolve into the Ubermensch and avoid all of these problems. Whenever I think of Morning Bell, I think of the Amnesiac version, which is way more deranged. In comparison, this one is quite peaceful, but there's an underlying feeling of something being wrong. Sometimes it sounds absurdly positive for a song about divorce, but it's sarcasm. The instrumentation sometimes brings forth these wondrous and inspirational moments, while the lyrics speak of things just going wrong, and this relationship deteriorating further and becoming quite absurd. Cut the kids in half. Thom is playing it quite risky with these lyrics. I imagine they've been misinterpreted more than Crowley talking about child sacrifice. Finally, motion picture soundtrack. This is another one of their best songs. A song where Thom reveals the way he subdues himself for comfort, drugging himself up. Thom considers on this song that romance is dead, and that the one life he has is squandered. He accepts this, which is tragic. This breakup has really broken him that much. The way the harp comes in always gives me chills. You can see the song as someone's last moments before suicide, which is a good way to interpret it, but I don't think it has to be that. But either way, it's like this is the closing chapter to his life, whether he stays alive or not. Such a brilliant way to end an album, seriously. Overall, the album is of a great quality throughout, and when I think about it, I don't really have any complaints outside of, I guess, some of Thom's writing just being vague political shit. But lyrics aren't really a major part of this album, and they're used in a lot of cases quite abstractly. The album is mostly emotion focused, and there's a lot of them to be felt. It does really hold up considering I first heard this album probably like 10 years ago. I think it all comes together very well, despite some songs being total polar opposites. There are a number of absolute classics here, though I don't really listen to this stuff much because it is quite negative and defeatist and it's for losers. But if we're being real, it is very good stuff. I give the album 9.5 cats out of a possible 10 cats, and it is, in fact, the most experimental album of all time. Yeah, that's about it for this review. Subscribe to the Catman Show, leave a like, leave a comment. Goodbye.